Okay, I am back with part 3. So we're going to do the children's faces. Now, I'm going to use my regular drawing pencils, probably just an HB to start. And I got my little eraser out because these faces are not that big. We're dealing with an 1 5/8" total here. So they're not too big. So to get the details, I'm going to go ahead and probably use my mechanical pencil. The other thing that you need to get, so go ahead now, you're going to want to pause the video, you need a reference photo. You don't need to print it out. I usually just look at photos on my phone, but my phone is filming, so I had to print them out. But I found some very cute kids. She's for tomorrow because she's a profile. But find a kid, and there's no shortage of cute kids. If you search for child portrait photography, that's usually what I search for, is child portrait photography, and just find one that you like. Now, the ones with teeth showing are harder. Okay, I will warn you guys about that. So if you want to keep it easy, then do one without the teeth showing. Some of you guys have had some drawing experience, so you can, go for it. Have some fun with this. I think I'm going to do this guy because he just cracks me up with his little suit. And then also this is a nice hair that's pretty easy to draw that will be helpful, I think, to do a demo. Let's get started here. I'm going to put a head on this guy right here. And the first thing we need to talk about is the proportions of the face. Okay, now we'll do this when we get to women and men as well, because they're all different. But with children, the number one most important thing that you need to know is that the eyes are lower than halfway, okay? So if this is about my halfway point, I'm going to put my eyes lower. If you don't do this, your kid is not going to look like a kid, okay? And we can talk more about why this is, but when you look at them, you see it. Look at all this forehead, right? And if I measure from the top of the head all the way to the chin, the eyes are definitely lower than halfway. So the lower the eyes are, the younger your kid is going to look. So be sure you put your eyes a little lower than halfway. The next thing I'm going to do is mark where my eyebrow level is. Okay, and I recommend you follow the same process as you're doing this. Mark where your eyebrow level is. I'm just going to go a little bit above the eyes. Okay, and then from there to the chin, halfway, is usually the bottom of the nose. Let's see if it works on our little guy. I've got my entire head here. Okay, the eyes are for sure lower than halfway. And if I mark my brow level a little bit above the eyes, if I go from brow to chin, yeah, I'm pretty much exactly halfway for the bottom of the nose. Okay, so that's kind of the way I approach this every single time, is I go eye level, mark where I want my brows to be. From there to the chin, halfway is the bottom of the nose. I will draw in just ever so slightly with an HB, a little bit of a nose shape for this little guy. We'll talk about the details of the features in a minute. But I just want to put that in there so that you guys know that that's the bottom of my nose. And lastly, we're going to put in the mouth, or next we're going to put in the mouth level. And for his mouth, and for most kids, the opening of the mouth is halfway from the nose to the chin. Okay, so the opening of the mouth is halfway from the nose to the chin. That's going to be different when we draw women and men, but for your children, that is going to work really well. So we'll go halfway. And when we look at our kiddo, it is absolutely the case that his opening of his mouth is halfway from here to there. Okay. Next thing we want to do is position the eyes. Now, kids' eyes, you can exaggerate them a little bit if you want to make them a little bit big. When I draw eyes, guys, whether it's women or men or children, I always start with the colored part of the eye. And that lives centered on the line. Okay. Next thing I do is I look at my reference photo and I figure out what the upper lid and the lower lid are doing in relation to that circle. Almost always you're going to see that the upper lid is actually overlapping the circle. Okay. Sometimes the lower lid does too, like on this little guy. You can then look at how much white of the eye, is it more on the right or more on the left? Now he's tilting his head, he's tilting his head slightly, so we see more white there and there. Okay. Or he's turning his head slightly, I should say. So what you do is you draw the circle and then you look at the eye and you decide, does the upper lid go over that circle? Usually it does. And what does the lower lid do? Does it go over that circle? Sometimes it does. okay? You can look at other things as well, like whether the inner corner is lower or higher than the outer corner, and you can try to capture that on your drawing. We must do this from a reference photo, everybody. If you haven't done much drawing before, and even if you have, the way we want to do this is from a reference photo, not because we need this kid to look like the kid in my photo or your photo, but because we want it to look like a real kid, okay? We don't want it to look like some imaginary kind of cartoon that we just had in our memory. Okay, so eyes, we're gonna put the other eye on the line. If you wanna exaggerate them and make the eyes a little bit bigger, you can do that. It's better too big than too small for kids' eyes, okay? And I feel like my eyes might be a little too small, but I'm not gonna stress about it. I like drawing faces, but I don't like the pressure to make the face look like the person you're drawing. That is hard. So don't put that pressure on yourself. Just use the reference photo to help you draw like a cute kid. That's all we got to do here. Okay, a couple other landmarks is the brows. We already marked the brow level. Take a look at your kid's brows. See what shape they make. Go light. We don't want too much of a heavy hand here for the brows. Now, I'm not putting a ton of detail here yet until I have everything laid out where I want it. Let me next figure out where his hairline is. It's pretty high. It's pretty high on his forehead. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out about where his forehead hairline is. Okay, and at this stage, I do two things. I put in the ears, but I actually need to pause for a second and just revisit the shape of the head that I drew. Okay, at this stage, I start to say, okay, this is too round for this kid. My kid, his face is a little more straight right here, and he's got a little bit of a chubby cheek down below. So I'm going to just make a little modification here. Look at your face photo, look at what you've got so far, and make whatever adjustments you think are necessary. Okay, so here's this little guy. There's about his hairline. We'll bring that down. Okay, now I want to point out something to you guys. Ears on kids are huge. They're so much bigger than we think they are. This ear starts at about the brow level and it comes down to the nose. That's also true for adults. We don't pay that much attention to ears, so we don't really realize how very big they are, but they're really kind of big. So if you don't get them big enough, our subconscious observational powers will notice that the ears aren't big enough. So put your ears big enough. Okay, now at this stage is where I think I'm going to get my mechanical pencil. I could have been doing mechanical pencil the whole time. And I'm going to try to get some more details. Okay, I'm trying to watch the length of this video so that it's not too long. Things I love for people to notice is if there's a crease above the eye, if you can capture that. And when I color in his eye, I'm going to leave a little reflection. Okay, I'm going to capture just a little reflection. And same on the other eye. My problem is not making him look cross-eyed where the eyes don't match each other. Okay, and let me see if I can get this. He's got a really cute little crease right there. Okay, back to the nose. I'm going to get the nostrils because they're really dark. And what I'm noticing about this little guy is I can see a nice shadow right here, but there's no other hard lines on his nose. The nose is completely shading, okay? There's a nice shadow here that I'm going to capture. I'm going to capture a shadow around there, and we're going to let this shading do the rest of the work for us. Okay, so there's the start of a shadow. Right now it's just a line, but I'm going to blend it in until it becomes a shadow. Same on the other side. We'll let that hook around. This is not an easy thing to do. You really have to take some time, take some patience, be willing to erase, okay? Because I don't get it right the first time, a lot of the times. So I'll do it, I'll step back, and then I'll come back and see if I need to adjust it. I'll start putting in some shadows very gently. We're going to talk in a second about where the shadows typically go on kids' faces, but I need to warn everybody that when you first start putting a little shading on your face, you're going to freak out. You're going to feel like you messed it up. Because if that's the only shadow on the face, like right now, that's the only shadow area on my face, it feels crazy because it's not matching the rest of the face. We need to get more shadows in there in order for those shadows to make sense. Okay. I'm going to talk in a minute about this hairstyle. And actually, now that I'm thinking of it, I will be soliciting from you guys, if you have, especially if you do a shadow under the eye like that, if this guy has the cutest shadow right here, If you just do that with nothing else, poor little guy's gonna look like he just worked a full 8-hour shift in an office wearing his little vest, right? He's gonna look tired. So don't panic. When you first start putting the shadows in, go with a light touch, but just have faith that they're gonna make sense once the rest of it goes together. Okay, let's give him some lips here. I'm gonna put in his lips. So I always draw the opening of the mouth first. And you can look and see, is it a straight line or does it actually have a little bit of shape to it? And then above that, I put the upper lip, and then I put the lower lip below that. Okay, now a couple of thoughts for you guys. When you do your lips, I want you to really look at your reference photo. Almost always, if not always, the upper lip is a lot darker than the lower lip, okay? We don't expect that. We expect them to be the same, but it's not the case, okay? Upper lip is darker because it's in shadow. What is dark also is underneath the lower lip, okay? So when you draw your kids, try to capture that. Try to get the upper lip a little darker, and maybe even there's a little bit of shading under the nose, and sometimes we catch a really pretty little highlight right above the upper lip, and then we're going to get a little shadow underneath the lower lip. And I want you guys to really look at your picture. Does that lower lip connect all the way? We always think there's an outline, but like we learned in that first lesson, sometimes there's simply not an outline. It's just areas of shadow connecting with each other. Now he needs just a bit of an adjustment to his chin shape here. And let me start putting, he's making me, I find myself making their face, like whatever their expression is, I start to do it as I'm drawing them. I always put a little bit of detail in the ear. Don't go crazy, because just like fingers, ears are really rarely the focus of a drawing. I always tell the story of the first, like literally the first semester they had me teaching this class. I told my class, I was like, don't stress about the ears. Nobody cares about the ears. Just put something there. You don't need it to even be anatomically correct. Literally that day, I was still working in the industry at the time, and I was doing some illustration work. And like literally that day, you guys, they called me to see if I could do illustrations of ears. Because somebody wanted to design some Bluetooth pieces or something, and so they needed somebody who could draw ears. I was like, what? I can't even believe that. So I went home and I drew ears. Okay. I'm building up some shadow here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to darken up under his chin. We always want the neck to be darker than the face, because otherwise it looks like their chin just sort of blended into their neck. His neck feels a little long to me. I may have to fix that a little later. Okay, now I want to get back to his hair, but let me just get a tiny bit of shadowing on the other side of his face, and just so you guys can see him, here he is. Like, look at how cute he is. Don't forget, these are the places I always make sure to shadow. Right here, there's almost always a shadow. Along the side of the forehead, kids' heads are really pretty round, so you can kind of think back to the sphere and wrap that shading around. On the edge of the cheek, again, the upper lip, under the lower lip, on the neck, in the ears. Those are your kind of go-to spots. Now, let's talk about his hair. Oh my God, there's so much more I could do here. Honestly, he's got the cutest little eyelashes. Don't go too crazy with eyelashes, because it'll look odd, unless it's a girl and you're kind of styling her a little bit, but even then it can look, on a kid, can look a little bit odd. Oh my God, this video is already 13 minutes. I wish I could just, like, personally, you guys, this will take me, if I really do it right, I need to spend another 10 minutes or so just playing around with the shading and really getting it the way I want it. So if you're new to drawing, this is going to take you a second, okay? This is going to take you a second, so don't rush it. And we want this for your portfolio, so I would like it to be nice. If you're struggling with it, let me know, especially when you submit. Let me know if you have questions or if you feel like certain things didn't look the way you wanted them to. Okay, let's talk about this hair. For short hair like this, okay, whether it's a buzz cut or whether it's just really short hair with some texture on it, I'm actually going to shade the entire head, and then I'm going to come in and put the hair a little bit darker. So I'm going to think, let's just pretend I didn't even draw out the hairline, right? I could just shade his entire head, keeping it brighter in the middle because that's where the light would be hitting. And for him it'd be a little bit maybe right here. Now I'm going to put his hair in. When I do his hair, I'm just going to go ahead and switch to a 2B. and I'm going to give a little bit of a bumpiness to the silhouette. We are going to lean on our silhouettes very, very much to communicate what we need to about our illustrations. Silhouettes are fundamental to telling our brain what we're seeing. So for this little guy, he's got, oops, I went a little too far because he's cropped pretty close on the side. It's more straight. But up on top, he's got some texture up there. We want to capture that. Now I'm going to darken it up. When I darken it for hair like this, I'm actually going to wiggle my pencil a little bit and see if I can get his hair texture while creating the value area that I need. So I'll put that in, just bring it down to about where his hairline needs to go. And I'll bring it off on the other side. And down the other side just a little bit. Okay, and that's probably okay. Okay, now, I mean, I wish I could spend a tiny bit more time, but you get the idea. Okay, so take your time, build it out, add the shading, and before I end this video, I'm just gonna repeat the rules about the face, okay? When you're doing your kid face, remember, you're gonna start, ooh, pencils rolling everywhere. You're gonna start with your eyes lower than halfway. Okay, that's number one most important thing. Next, you're going to find the brow level, and from there to the chin, halfway is the bottom of the nose. Once you know the nose, from there halfway is the opening of the mouth. Okay, and then you can start putting in your details. So there might be a lips. Now I'm just putting something in here. I need a reference photo to do this properly. Okay, but something like that is going to get you, and then don't forget your ears are kind of big, and we can put some hair in there as well. Now, this one that I just drew, I think I put the eyes a little too low, but be sure you drop them lower than halfway. What I'd like to request from you guys is if you have particular hairstyles that you want to see, I'm going to put some past demos up on the camera so you can see it. Tomorrow we're going to do a profile. Here was some wild hair that was super fun. Here is just a really tidy little braid. This little guy had a cute hairstyle. That was a lot of fun to draw. And you can see this little shaved area here where I just did little pencil dots to show the shaved part. Her braid was really fun to do. Again, tomorrow we're going to do profiles. And this little space bun situation looks hard, is actually very easy. Some curly textured hair, some long straight hair. Long straight hair might be the easiest to draw, so if you're looking for something easy just to knock this out, you could consider that. I will demo all of these, and we're going to be doing a lot more practice with hair and faces. So for now, do your best, but do collect photos of hairstyles that you want me to demo, and I will for sure do that for you guys. Okay, I can't wait to see these. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.